do. We bring a new perspective, talk, portrayal, and perception.
Reflect on many topics, friendship, love, life lessons.
The goal is to get you thinking, so tune in to the show.
We're immune to all the trolling, leave the comments below.
This is my whole point, and this is one of my biggest issues that I think legislatively we can fix. So, the only part of this weapon that you have to get a background check for is this low receiver right here. So this little piece right here that's serialized and everything. Well, you go to a gun show, which is where I bought all this other stuff. Just walked in, $350, no questions asked, here's your stuff, blah, 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 watch a YouTube video, put it together. And that's what I essentially did. And I was gifted this low receiver by someone who did the background check to get it. So literally, I could be a felon, could be whatever, and I built an AR-15. I have a 30-round magazine, and I never had to go through any sort of.
Because it was gifted to you.
Yeah, well, not even the gun was gifted to me. This piece right here, just this little
that's
piece.
That's the only part.
Yeah, so this lower receiver that has the Anderson mil spec, and it's got the serial number on it. Now the kicker to that is you can buy these 80%. So you basically, when you buy it, it has the pivot pin holes, it doesn't have this hole, and it doesn't have this groove, and it doesn't have this hole right here, and no serial number. If you have any access to sort of a machine shop or anything, you go to a mechanic. My father-in-law is a mechanic because he races and all that stuff, and he has the tools, and he has 3 of these that are not traceable. Because literally you go and you buy the stock, you buy the buffer tube, you buy the upper, you buy whatever else you want to do to outfit it with. And the place that I got it from, Discount Tactical, at the gun show was $350. Walked out with that, came home, put it together within a matter of 2 days, and that was just me watching the baby and putting it together. And now I have a fully functioning rifle. I can, at 100 yards with this red dot, I can put it within 3 or 4 inches of gun grouping. So that's what I think really needs to be fixed.
Is how easy you can.
But, because the thing is, in 1994, this was already outlawed, or it was outlawed until 2004 when Bill Clinton signed in. There was a gun reform act after there were 2 mass shootings. So essentially, there's always action after one of these shootings. I mean, Sandy Hook, Columbine, whatever. What happened in Florida, and it's not always a good thing. I mean, they put it so mass shootings did decline in that time, but gun violence didn't. And the biggest issue is because these only account for like 4% of the gun crimes in America. I mean, it's less than 300. It was like 282 in 2016 or something like that. But it's predominantly in mass shootings. So it's things that make national news.
Right.
Versus we never. Yeah, we never. How many people get the gun down in Chicago we never hear about because we live in Texas?
Or because they didn't use a machine gun.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, handguns are, I think there's like 8,000 deaths associated with handguns. And I mean, that's not including, or that probably is including, I don't know, I'll have to look up the statistic, but those killed by police officers and things like that. But like I said, in 1994, this along with branded weapons that are assault weapons. So it was like all the M-series weapons, AK-47s, Tech 9, fully automatic handguns. And then the AR-15 was another one of those. They were all banned, but there was a grandfather clause and things like that. So basically, they still produced them for military use. They still, if you had one prior to 1994, you could keep it. They just weren't going to sell. It was illegal to sell these to civilians during that time, 1994 to 2004. And mass shootings did decrease, but gun violence didn't. So, I mean,
what are we more concerned about? Are we concerned about mass shooting, or are we concerned about gun violence?
Both, but the gun control that's being presented to legislation or to the legislators by the kids that were affected by the Florida shooting and stuff. Like, there's that big political movement that they're kind of starting. That legislation is only going to decrease mass shootings, which is a good thing.
Right.
But once again, you're only taking about 3 to 4%
off
of the gun, of the death toll. Yeah, exactly. So, and I own this and I love it, and I use it for hunting hogs, and I use it for, I mean, if anybody ever busted up in my house, I have a pistol too. I'll probably use that, honestly, first.
Rather than put holes in your wall.
Exactly. I mean, a 223, I don't want to, and this is meant to kill something, whether it be people, whether it be bigger animals, and then I mean you look at other things like the AR-10, it's a 308. I mean that's a bigger bullet, and it's going to do more damage. But like I told you, my pistol I have hollow points.
Right.
38 special hollow points is a gun this big, and I can still do some damage with that.
Right.
So I just think, I don't know, it's a tough road to cross, because you're going to have a lot of people that own these weapons that are going to push back on that.
Right.
And if they just do something like they did in 1994, which was ban, new, sell, you're still going to have people that still own these
Right.
and still potentially.
So the problem
sell them
isn't
privately.
really that they're hard to get necessarily, or we shouldn't really necessarily make them harder to get. We should just work on decreasing the amount of shootings that we have.
Well, I think we should make them harder. I mean, I do not think that I should be able to, without a background check, walk in and get every single piece of a gun except this lower receiver for $350, and nobody, they didn't even take my ID.
But the way that I feel, right, and correct me, you can pitch in too, Zach, is that if I am planning to kill someone or go and kill multiple people, sure, a weapon like this is convenient.
Right.
But I can walk in with a handgun and just come in with just a whole bunch of spare bullets, and most of the time people aren't armed at schools.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can get a Springfield
you can
XTM.
easily kill
Yeah.
the same amount of people. I mean, it would take more time,
Yeah.
of course, but I mean,
You get a Springfield XTM with that holds 19 in one clip, and it's not even an extended clip, that's standard clip. 19 in the clip, 1 in the chamber, so you got 20 bullets right there. If you're a decent shot, I mean, that could be 20 casualties.
And I mean, the thing is, as long as, just like you're saying, as long as your weapon has the capacity to kill, I mean, you can kill.
Yeah.
You're in there, and I mean, one thing that I wanted to add is that if I had the intention of killing a bunch of people, I don't care what the law is.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, you know what? So you banned this.
Right.
Guess what? I'm still gonna use it.
Right.
I don't care if it's banned. I mean, and I think that the point is that individuals who have this ill intent don't necessarily have any regard for the law. If you don't have regard for human life, then I highly doubt you have regard for, what some lawmakers said.
Yeah, well, I mean, blunt objects accounted for more murders than these
Guns.
assault weapons. Well, yeah, we're just looking at semi-automatic. Generally, what they're referring to is an AR-15, an Armalite rifle, but they deem it an assault weapon. So, assault weapons only, or assault rifles, is what the media is calling it. It was only 282. It was over 300 for blunt objects. So if I hit you over the head with, that vase or their pitcher.
And it's definitely gonna be, lower because it's gonna require, more skill for assembly, even though you can, learn it on a YouTube video. I mean, with that intent, you're gonna also have to acquire the skill. You're gonna also have to acquire the skill for the care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be more specialized. I mean, somebody who's inexperienced in weaponry isn't gonna generally, go up to an assault rifle for their first weapon. I mean, they're gonna have to, they're gonna have to start really low.
Exactly.
So I mean, if these people are like, hey, you know what? I'm pretty new to the mass shooting game. I'm not really too experienced. I mean, hey, you know what? I just know I want to kill people. I mean, let me use what I can use.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, so there was a YouTube video that I saw of one of the Florida students. She was talking about. She basically was talking to the legislators, and she was saying you shouldn't be able to walk in and buy an AR-15 for $130. Which, first of all, I don't.
Yeah, I heard that too. I'm like,
but
geez, where are you getting your guns?
You can get, and these gun shows are one thing. Like in Pasadena, there's a gun show almost every weekend, and
That's true.
And I've gone, and they have these big, bulky pistols. I swear they weigh like 6 to 10 pounds. Like they're heavy and they're big and they're bulky, and they carry 8 rounds. They're like $80. Somebody could easily walk in there and get that, and still do damage. Now, I think when we're looking at school shootings versus some of the other mass shootings, Vegas is one of the biggest proponents that I think, as far as these rifles, this is something that was specialized to
do what
a weapon like this. Yes, because you're literally picking people off. It's like the UT Tower shooting. I mean, he had a sniper rifle. Those things are completely different than somebody just walking into an enclosed space, a building, and just trying to kill a bunch of people. Now, on the flip side of that, I do think that I don't think we should have gun shows.
Okay.
Because, like I said, how easy it was for me to walk in there, it's ridiculous. And I mean, the people that I'm walking in there, I mean, they don't look like bad people, but I mean, do any of these people look like necessarily bad people? I mean, obviously.
The guy was a millionaire.
Oh, from Vegas?
Yeah, from Vegas.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's all speculation that he was a gun runner and all this stuff, but yeah, I mean, they don't necessarily look like bad people, but then that's when it comes down to mental health. And you and I had that conversation kind of the other day in the gym about how well, I guess this kind of goes to you too, because you kind of moved away from your job because of the mental stress that it put on you and that you were working long hours and stuff like that. And we were talking about those studies that if you're working just to make a check and just to try to live a certain lifestyle and things like that, you're going to end up working yourself to the bone. You're going to end up going into a depression and an anxious state, and that's where people snap. Now, I mean, obviously we're looking at the most recent case. What was it, 19-year-old kid, so he's probably not necessarily stuck in that loop yet. Right. But mental health definitely goes into it, and that also goes into the overall happiness of people in general. And I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but if you go and look at how his home life was, it was non-existent because his parents were deceased. You know, so I think that there's a lot of things that we need to do from a societal standpoint before we go and just throw in a bunch of laws.
I definitely agree, and I feel like, to add to that, I mean, I feel as though it's gotten so drastic that at this point, whenever kids go to middle school, even, they should be evaluated. Everyone.
Yeah.
It should be mandatory.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just like you have to fill out emergency contact forms and you have to fill out, get your shots, your tetanus booster and all this stuff.
I mean, in middle school, you get checked for, for scoliosis and lice.
Exactly. You get all this. You get a lice check. People come in with popsicle sticks and put them in your head. Why can't they just have mental evaluations? Like, why can't they even
like a physical? Make it part of.
Yeah, you
a lot of people get physicals.
You could even take like a lot of the people in their psychology residencies or whatever, just grad students that are doing psychology. Come in, you get credit hours for going to these schools and evaluating people, and they go in. These kids can get marked down, and if a kid is a certain risk. And if this kid is at risk, they have to go in and have counseling sessions.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the biggest issues for people on that front, or the biggest argument that I've seen against that, is like, oh, how are we going to pay those people? And I mean, you touched on it a little bit about people in their psychology residency and things like that. But school counselors, my great aunt was a school counselor for many years. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure you have to have a master's degree.
You do.
Of some
you do
sort.
have to have a master's degree to be a counselor.
So why don't we be more selective with who we hire? Master's degree in psychology that is maybe more geared towards child and developmental psychology, and have them throw in some different classes that maybe can help them kind of spot these things. The other flip side of that, and my wife deals with it because she's a teacher over at Sterling, she deals with it, is that students who are emotionally maybe disturbed, which she does have a couple that are just having a lot of emotional issues. She is a teacher that is ahead of a classroom of 30 people, is having to sit down and talk to them and things like that. And while that's good, the person doesn't want to go to the counselor because they don't think the counselor is good and they're not helpful and they don't listen to them. So I think we need to improve the quality of the services that we're going to be offering to these children, especially with all these social movements that we're having that are around transgenderism and the LGBTQ kind of community, because we have a lot of people, like, even though it's becoming more accepted, I think more people are getting confused. I mean, we have people pushing hormone blockers for 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, things like that. Well, I mean, that's just going to cause more mental dysphoria.
Right,
so,
because the more things that you allow is the more problems that you have. So let me ask you guys this. Would you say that the media has an agenda when they bring forth things like gun control, things like LGBTQ? That's the question. What do you think, Zach? Do they have an agenda? Because if you look at if you
Kermit over here just sipping some tea.
If you look at just how it's presented, they had a whole town hall on CNN where they had a Republican lady, I can't remember her name. She came in, and then you had like the Democratic senator. It was the Republican senator, I think the Democratic senator. I'm not too sure. In fact, what's that guy's name from Florida? Marco
Rubio.
No, it might have been him. It might have been he was there, or he declined to be there.
He declined.
Yeah, he declined to be there. And so I was watching it, and I could see the fear, and the media takes that fear. They don't report on gun control because they want gun control. They don't report on LGBTQ because they want LGBT. They don't report on, democracy or the opposite of that, communism. They don't report on Donald Trump because they want you to know about it. They do it for it starts with a V. They do it for the views. They do it for how many people watch their show, because in return they're gonna make a profit. And so, do they have an agenda? Are they more about the money, or are they actually about the news? Because I felt like Jace just talked about the guns, and I'm like, okay, well, gun control obviously isn't gonna help if he can walk in and get for $350 like the whole set, and I only need a background check for this part, which I'm sure there are people that I can get that from.
Yeah.
And
This is the thing. I mean, I feel like I'm as nonpartisan as can be. Like, I don't care about.
And that's the best way to be.
I don't care about liberal. I don't care about conservative. I don't care. And from that standpoint, I can say that, from my observation, objectively, the media is generally liberal. Most of the media is generally liberal. The issues that they push, or the issues that they care to talk about, and the perspectives that they take on them tend to be the more liberal perspectives. After this shooting happened and after the other ones happened, there's never an objective. You usually don't see an objective report. It's just, hey, let's get this gun control stuff pushed. Hey, let's get these guns out of here. Even the kids. I mean, some of them probably are real students. Some of them may not be.
That conspiracy. Yeah.
I mean, when someone, and granted, I'm not saying that they're not, but when someone comes up with a number 130, for you to be in a public forum and you to say 130 is a number, I get the feeling that this number comes from somewhere. I get the feeling that this number is some number that was relayed from somewhere.
Right. Because if they did a Google search, they would know that 130 is wrong.
Yeah. So this number has some sort of significance, and I mean, I don't know what the significance is yet, but I feel as though once the research goes, that number is going to pop up. 130 is going to pop up because it's random.
Right. Well, as far as going back to your original question with the way that the media pushes things, I mean, and I hate to say it this way, but this is how I feel after every school shooting, is I feel like the media is standing on the graves of these dead children to push a political agenda. Mm-hmm. And it's sickening, but it's also, it makes you look like a really, really bad person to push against that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man.
How do you beat someone up
standing
on a grave?
Exactly. You don't you don't care about dead kids? It's like, no, I do care about dead kids. Oh, you care about your guns more than dead kids? No. I care about our rights as people. And one of the things that I just watched actually earlier before y'all came here, God, I wish I could remember his name, but he was a military expert, and he was a colonel. And he was basically saying that these weapons are used to tear apart human beings, to hit them so many times that they're incapacitated, they can't get back up to fight, things like that, excuse me, and that should not be in civilian hands. Mm-hmm. But my immediate thought, especially when somebody that is a military expert, comes from the military, probably knows a lot more than I do about what our country is doing, locally and internationally with military, saying, oh, the civilians shouldn't have something that is equal or somewhat equal to what the military has. We should take that away, which lots of people aren't saying let's take guns away. But what he said is, his exact words were, these should not be in the hands of civilians, meaning I should not have a weapon that can adequately defend myself against the military if they come at me. Because if I have a pistol, if that's all that we're allowed to have, pistol or bolt action rifle, like my hunting rifle upstairs, I do not stand a chance if I have one person with multiple magazines with a fully automatic M16 from the Army coming at me. Granted, I might still not stand a chance with this, but it's better than that. And that's my fear, is that we will get disarmed as a nation, and it will slowly just tumble into kind of like a communist state. And I mean, we may be decades and decades and decades away from that, but like I was telling you earlier, and like you seem to kind of feel just from talking to you, is that both parties are in bed together.
Yeah.
Donald Trump got elected to make us miss Barack Obama. And I like him as a guy, I like him as a speaker and things like that, but there are a lot of policies that went swept under the rug that he did that did not align with the Democratic Party, did not align with what people actually thought he was doing. One of the big things was he wrote in the Bush tax cuts, so instead of pulling them out, he actually kept them in place and solidified them, and a lot of people didn't know that, you know, because a lot of Democrats are like, oh, we shouldn't give tax cuts to the wealthy, we shouldn't give tax cuts to business, things like that. I mean, they're pushing back on Trump when he put that into place. So, you know, they're all in bed together, they're all run by corporations, and that's why I hate when people target the NRA, being like, oh, the NRA gives Marco Rubio money, so you're obviously going to be for guns and things like that because they give you money. And it's like, well, yes, in a stance, but they also align with his agenda. But there are corporations that are giving so much more money. I mean, the guy, can't remember his name, CEO of Amazon. He's worth Bezos, yes.
Bezos.
What, $104 billion, right? Okay, well, two things that happen. One, he sits on a Pentagon committee, so he's very involved in our politics. Two,
military politics.
Yes, $600 million CIA deal Amazon just did to create a cloud for the CIA and all the agencies linked to the CIA. How many people have Amazon Echoes in their house? How many people, so corporations like Amazon and things like that are taking over our politics, and they run our politics. I mean, Amazon literally, when they started out and I mean, this is a smart business thing, but it also is kind of screwed up. So when they started out, they were online, you know, only. So basically what they did is they were able to undercut places like Barnes & Noble and things like that would have been their competitors, but they didn't have to pay certain taxes because they're
they don't have a location.
online.
Right.
Exactly. So now that all these Barnes & Nobles and things have closed down, guess what Amazon's doing?
They buy them.
They're putting up brick and mortar stores, Amazon bookstores, Amazon grocery stores, things like that. I mean, I'm not talking about a Skynet takeover, but
I mean,
it's
very close to that, and I think one thing that we sleep on is the up and coming popularity of the internet. I recently am trying to develop my Instagram presence for my business, and I have to be on Instagram every single day.
Yeah.
And you know, liking, posting, and I think in my head, you know, if there is a company that's monitoring the internet, which I mean, most companies monitor the internet because that's how you're gonna market yourself.
Right.
You know, so talking about a company like Amazon, right? That has a come up. Isn't that already what the media is doing to us? Isn't the media kind of, because I can watch the media and I can say, well, that's biased, that's biased, that's biased. Let me go read up on that because you are presenting material to me that I know nothing about.
But that's you as an educated individual.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's me taking the extra step to say, okay, before I accept this and just put a check mark on it, right? I need to check on this myself.
Right.
Most people are gonna hear what the news says and eat it up. And if you have a company like Amazon, I mean, I can get on Amazon, right? Look at a couple of things. We talked about this in the car. I can look at a couple of things, and then when I'm on another site, that same thing that I was looking on Amazon pops up at the at the side, you know, to remind me exactly of what I was looking at. And I'm like, man, I'm on a completely different site that has nothing to do with you, yet somehow you're following me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's I mean, and I play straight into it. I have a Google Home in my kitchen over there, and I listen to podcasts all the time while I'm in the kitchen and stuff like that. But I know that if I wanted to talk to it right now, it could hear me, and I'm not talking loud. I'm not doing anything. It's got a really good microphone, and those things are being. I'm not an important person really, but those things are being documented. They are being put in the cloud. They are being streamed. You know, and I hate getting into oh yeah, Big Brother is watching us and this, that, and the other, because I don't want to sound like that. I mean,
conspiracies.
Yeah, I believe it's true, but I don't want to. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt as far as it's not going to be used against me. But I feel like eventually it will be.
Oh, of course. I mean, let me tell you something. The best way, I feel like to control people is to control them without them even knowing.
Yeah.
I feel like the best way for me to know what your game plan is for me to know what you're talking about and what you're planning. Because if I can see your plan, then I know how to navigate around you. And I feel like, as people that are successful now bank on what we talked about. I have to bank on with my business that the internet is gonna pull through. There's no more door to door anymore. Not really. The thing that's better than door to door, like we were talking about earlier, references.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that trumps the internet, and really the internet trumps it because references happen to be
on the internet.
I mean, a lot of the time.
Yelp, Facebook, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If I have a good experience with your business, I'm gonna be like, man, you know what? Piano Vibes is awesome, or Zach is awesome, and y'all should definitely use him for that Dosh app that I use.
Dosh.
I made $250 literally off an app's marketing plan by just sharing it on Facebook. So if me, a normal guy who, first of all, only has like 800 friends on Facebook, and then on top of that, the majority of them were skeptical of it. If I can get $250 from getting people to join that, I mean, what can a big company do? What can even a medium-sized company do? The influence is ridiculous, and that's what's happening with all of with all of the younger generation, is because, we were the last generation that kind of had, we didn't have the internet, then all of a sudden, boom, we did. Now it's just like, I always had the internet. When I'm 5 or 6, if I want to know something, I'm typing it into Google.
Right.
It's scary, but it's also a good thing, but it has to be used correctly.
Right.
We have a plethora of information, but we also have a plethora of misinformation.
Oh yeah.
And targeted information. Your Piano Vibes, you said you paid $200 to Google?
Yeah, I paid $200.
If somebody searches piano lessons in Baytown, you're the first one that pops up?
I only pay if they click. That's the thing. So I pay for clicks. I don't pay for if they scroll past it. I don't pay for anything else. Me and Zach was talking about this. He said that he didn't like the Facebook advertising because it doesn't give him enough detail.
Right.
I said, Zach, you're someone that comes from statistics, right? And so all of the categories, the genres, just the categories that you want and you need to be able to make a proper statistical decision, right? They don't have it. But for the average Joe that gets on there and realizes that they can market their business on Facebook,
right?
They look at all of the stats and they're like, oh my goodness, I get all of the statistics. I get this. They tell me, that I got a 3-second view. They don't think the way that you do. Right. Zach was like, man, I don't even know what a 3-second view means. Like, does that mean that they just scrolled up and forgot to scroll for a couple seconds?
Do y'all have the autoplay function on?
Yeah, right.
You go like that, it automatically plays these videos.
Did they turn the sound on? Like, maybe sound on?
Exactly. Like, they just watch my mouth move. They don't even know what I'm saying.
Exactly. Or they just looking at me like, is this video interesting?
Right. But if you, turn that in, $200 has done something great for you. What could 200 million do? A business that has corporations that have just this massive amount of pool are controlling our government. So if, honestly,
but how can you say no, right? If I get a deal, right, and someone came to me and they said, Ashil, I will pay you $5,000 every month, that at the beginning of your piano lesson, right, you advertise a health insurance plan to your parents. The reason why is because they have kids. They may not have, the benefits of having, a health insurance plan.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they are paying me to do that. Why would I tell them no?
Right.
Right. And so that seems okay. Well, shit, you're selling health insurance. Well, what if I was selling? If I lived, I'm here in Texas. Marijuana laws are coming into effect. What if I started saying, okay, well, are you interested in investing? If you pay me $5,000, I will ask my students' parents, are they interested in investing in marijuana? I take it a step further. Are they interested in trafficking cocaine across the border? Being like a storehouse. Right. See, you can pay people to do things that are in society frowned upon.
Well, look at athletes. You look at Michael Jordan was advertising McDonald's. I highly doubt that that's part of his regular meal before he goes to games. Like he had LeBron doing Sprite. It's like maybe they might drink these things during the off season, I guess.
Right.
But you know, this isn't really a product that's helping them athletically.
What was I see? Oh my gosh, there was a video that I saw the other day, and it was a professional basketball player. I cannot remember who it was, but he was eating. He was getting a foot rub. This is 90 minutes before game time. Getting a foot rub, eating 2 Big Macs, just crushing. 90 minutes before game time, and they were just clowning on him. But I mean, I definitely understand where you're coming from. A good friend of mine, Fred, he literally messaged me the other day. He said, "Oh yeah, somebody paid me $800. He's a track athlete, ran at A&M, and now he's for the USA. He's like, oh yeah, somebody paid me $800 to post a picture of a water bottle on my thing. Okay, so yeah, you will post. I mean, he may not even use that water bottle ever. He may think it's the crappiest water bottle ever. It could be made out of plastic that when you put hot water in it, it's gonna poison you. You know, but they paid him money, and people see dollar signs, and that's what goes back to like the podcast I was talking to you about that I was listening to about Johan Hari. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but one of the things is that if we could take money out of society or give people a minimum, I don't want to say a minimum wage, what was it, a federal minimum budget to live on. So say this is the poverty line, it's $29,000 a year, boom, we're giving you $32,000 a year. You can afford housing, you can afford food, water, blah, 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 whatever. If you have a family of 3, it might be more, blah, this, that, and the other. So it's all calculated that way where you live. But you want luxuries. You want to live in a bigger house. You want to live, you want to have a nicer car. You want to be able to go on vacations. You work, but you get to do something that you enjoy versus having to get a job to, like, just to sustain your life. Not your lifestyle, but to sustain your life.
Yeah, to live.
Exactly. And there were countless studies that he rattled off that just showed the decrease in depression, the decrease in anxiety disorders, the decrease in addiction and medication. And he reverted that back to a study that was done on heroin addicts where they brought them in and they gave them safe heroin, safe needles, things like that. And he said that the study showed that 85% of people wean themselves off. It wasn't that, they were like, oh, hey, you did, I don't even know what the dosage for heroin is, but say, oh, you did 10 milligrams yesterday. Yeah, I have no idea. Yesterday or last week. But yeah, I don't know. But if you did 2 today, let's do 1 today. They weren't doing that. They were saying how much you want. And they would give them all the way up until the lethal dose. So if somebody wanted the maximum amount they could get, they could come and get that, whenever they wanted.
Do you think that that's plausible in our society? That if you want drugs, then you shouldn't go to the neighborhood crack house. You should just go to the pharmacy, get your injection of whatever, and then call an Uber to pick you up.
Well, no, they keep you there.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like we will keep you here if you want to do drugs.
Oh yeah.
It seems. I mean, and me hearing that, it seems like it's a Ron Paul-esque philosophy.
Right.
And I like Ron Paul. He's probably one of the only politicians that I kind of like align with in many respects. Because he made sense. I mean, when a lot of them didn't, a lot of them seemed like they were just spewing things that were told to spew.
Being
and
paid to talk about.
Ron Paul actually seemed to have some sort of educativeness behind what he said. I mean, with drugs, because making them illegal, isn't stopping people from using them.
Oh, we came full circle.
We came back to the guns.
There you go.
Yeah. I actually like the finance idea that Jace just brought up, and that leads back to what you were trying to do a couple of years back with the barter system, right? Kind of give us an idea of what, not necessarily the barter system, but what you think bartering can do and improve in our everyday lifestyle.
I think bartering could actually, could improve things drastically. If people were to exchange their services with one another and kind of just get rid of this useless paper that we have that used to be a store of value that now...
we talked about this. We said that how is your paper here in the United States? You put a piece of paper that's $1. Let's say that, not even $1, because $1 is an American word, right? We would say a piece of paper with the number 1 on it, right? more than if I go to an African country, they have a piece of paper that has a 1 on it. Why is that 1 and that more than that piece of paper worth more than?
I'll tell you exactly why. Because we have a bigger military, we have more weapons, and if we wanted to destroy them, we could. So therefore, ours is worth more.
It also goes back to, and we use our military to make our money worth more, because once the gold standard went away, we didn't have enough gold to back the currency that we were making. What did we go to? We went to the petrodollar, which I don't know if y'all have heard of that, but essentially, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why we went to Iraq, why we were fighting all of these. I mean, back
how much is the
illegal
gas?
wars. Well, yeah, no, it's we have transferred to the petrodollar, and it's we have access that we took by military control to a natural resource that the entire world needs, and well, we could not need it if we wanted to, but that they need currently, and that has boosted our economy. When oil's doing well, when we have a lot of oil, our economy does well, our dollar strengthens and things like that.
And it's like, I mean, and looking at it, like, just like you said, we could not need it if we move to that, but it goes back to what you were saying about corporations. I mean, because we are so controlled by big corporations, people like BP and Exxon and, all these other companies are some of the largest companies in the world, and they have so much money that can never be negated. Their influence can never be negated in any societies that matter. Their influence in our government, their influence in the European Union, their influence in the Arab Union, their influence is so large that any laws that would, any type of legislation, any type of moves that would outlaw oil would be knocked down.
They get a notification on their phone saying there's someone trying to block us.
Even if you took the corporation out of it, the people that are benefiting from the corporation. We live in Baytown. How many people are making 6 figures in this town that have little to no education and are able to go into work shift work, make 6 figures, and live a relatively happy lifestyle?
Right.
If some politician came up, third party, Green Party, Libertarian, whatever, came up and was like, you know what we need to do? We need to completely go to hydrogen and electric cars, and we need to do away with gas and oil. Well, I guarantee you the majority of Baytown is not going to vote for him, much less the white conservatives that live in our area and things like that.
But I mean, it's not even, it comes full circle back to money.
To money.
And people don't see it, but guns equate money. And like you just said, our military backs our dollar, right? That means that guns back our dollar. Oil backs our dollar. All of the things that really are thought of as American, right? The idea that, you can come here, be nothing, and make something for yourself. That idea backs our dollar. So our dollar isn't just a dollar on its own. It's the fact that we as a country have bought and sold ourselves under the dollar. You sell yourself. You don't realize it. You go into work every day, and that is you selling yourself for a certain price.
Yeah, and we're stuck in that loop of having to go to work to maintain a lifestyle and things like that. That's why. First I want to get to this first, because what you were talking about is how our military is backing our dollar, and it's evident in the new budget that was passed. $160 billion went to bloating our military more. So it was an estimated $60 billion to give free tuition for college, for a year for the United States. So we could have saved $100 billion. We could have educated however many kids are going to college. Yeah, I mean, does that make sense? I mean, like, it does. It really doesn't make sense. I mean, it does, because I want to feel safe. I want to be protected. But
I think that goes back to our money loop discussion, like our last video. I mean, I don't think that there's any desire to stop the money loop, which is student loans, because they're given out so indiscriminately. Student loans, there's, just like we said, just to kind of borrow off of that last video, there's no qualification required other than being 18 to get a student loan. And this money is given out so freely so carelessly, so casually, you know, there has to be something behind it. There has to be some sort of agenda behind that for this money to be given out so casually. And the fact that this money is given out so casually, I highly doubt that the government would do anything to usurp that.
Right.
Have you ever thought that what they do is they'll say something like this, and this is how, in my mind, they have, I guess, like, you know, everyone always talks about China calling in debt, you know, and I feel like really what they're doing is they're amassing debt in our society, and then what they do is they tell China, okay, these people will pay you back, and so they move the debt over to China, and they're just like, these debts will accrue interest forever, really, and no one really has to pay them off, and you will slowly get your money as these people. I mean,
well,
that's a
That's an interesting philosophy.
yeah. That and in my head, I'm like, that can be the only reason why we can owe them that much money, right? And other than our military, you know, it's just like, okay, well, we will pay you back, but on our terms, and so our terms happen to be.
Our government gives international aid to China, but we are in debt to them, trillions of dollars. It makes no sense. But the return factor is, like I was telling you, and I wish I would have remembered what the mineral is, but there's a mineral that to China is the biggest deposit of this mineral, and that's what goes into all of our computer chips.
And our
Silicon Valley would collapse if we stopped doing business with China. If we said, we're not paying you back our debts, blah, 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 we're cutting ties, the Silicon Valley would go broke. Because
that's our innovation.
Yeah, I mean, that is. There's so many people that move over there that are making millions and millions of dollars.
But here's the thing, right? We know that if that were to happen, what do you think would happen if China said, you know what, we're not giving you this anymore?
They're never going to do that because we're going to keep giving them money.
Oh yeah, we're going to keep giving them money, but if they came to a point where they had to tell us that, what do you think would happen? Our society is Our society is such it works in the way that if anyone tells us no for something that we want, because we are capitalists. At the end of the day, we are capitalists, right? That means that if I want something, it is my right to work hard for it. And if I feel like I deserve it, then I ask for it. And if you're not going to give it to me, then, I mean, I'm going to take what's...
Yeah, but that's also why,
That's
as a country, that is the philosophy that
We feel occupied on already.
Yeah,
that's
but
us.
we're demonizing children that act the same way. But we're instilling that. I mean, literally, if you are looking at protest government, and I'm not talking about civil disobedient protests where, you know, you have people fighting for actual rights, but I'm looking at things where people are basically whining because they didn't get their way. But our country does the same thing. We just have bigger muscles.
And the thing is, I mean, to add to that, like, even with China, we're already at war with China. It's just a proxy war.
Yeah.
We are at war with China. World War III is happening now. Just it's a proxy war. Like, I saw an article on Yahoo yesterday that said North Korea has supplied Syria with weapons. I'm like, where does this stuff come from? I'm like, really? Like, when did North Korea and Syria, like, get ties? Like, when did this ever happen? Like, I mean, I know that Russia and Syria had a relationship. Like, Russia had a base there. But now North Korea has a relationship with them too. I thought North Korea was isolated from trade with, like, everybody. Like, it's just these things just pop up, and I'm like, okay, we're beating the drums now. We've got the saber rattling going on. PR campaigns are happening. I mean, this is all part of the build-up. It's all part of the proxy war.
But have you ever thought that the strength of a country is how it fights its wars? So let me put this in perspective. We haven't had a war on our soil in years, but somehow we always end up overseas in some other country. So for instance, we always call it the war in Iraq, right? They call it the war here, the war there, and in my head, or we're not even tied to the war, we just report on it. So for instance, Syria, right?
Oh, we're definitely tied to Syria.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we don't fight back. If we have to fight, so you said, you gave an example of a proxy war. What I'm saying is, like, we fight other countries, but just we don't do the fighting, and that other country that we're fighting doesn't do the fighting either. So like for instance, if we're at war with Russia, if we're at war with China, we pick a spot on the map. And we're just like,
yeah,
we
it's like
are
a big
gonna
game
fight.
of race.
Exactly. It's like who's gonna lose, who's gonna win. It's almost like the what do they call that? The communists when Russia and the United States were going at it. The Cold War. Exactly. That is modern warfare today. We're not gonna dirty our hands and bring a war or take it to the place that we actually want to go.
But we will go in and train the guys, and we'll give them weapons.
Oh, of course.
It's
Everyone does that.
Yeah, it's
Everyone does that.
backfiring on us, and then that's what makes me so. Going back to our original point, which was gun control, makes me laugh so much. Is that we're so against arming our own people, but we will make tanks and bombs and fully automatic weapons and send them over to these third world war-ridden countries and be like, okay, you're gonna defend yourself. Da da da. Okay, what happens when this little militia gets squashed and all our stuff that we sent over to them gets taken by the country that doesn't like us?
Exactly.
And it's happening. It has been happening. For
course.
years.
It's funny because I feel like that movie Iron Man, the first one, showed that where he got blown up by his own missiles.
Oh yeah.
When he was driving the car.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the media can give you all this nonsense about how we're not there and we haven't been there. But if you look at it, you have these rebel groups that can fight 3-year wars. How do you have enough weapons to fight a 3-year war?
Yeah.
Against armed professionals.
Against the country.
Yeah.
You don't just pop up like it's not Grand Theft Auto. The gun just pop in your hand. Hey, you know what?
And it's because there's no way that these small rebel groups are able to fund that, even if they were able to get access to the black market and buy these weapons and stuff like that. So the funding is coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Or it's an agenda. So it's like, okay, well, if you disrupt, and if you bite their toes, it's like ants. You know what I mean? I'll send you over there, and you just bite their toes, and I will be happy with that. You know what I mean? It's very, and I mean now we're just talking conspiracy, but I mean I feel like a lot of it is factual if you look at history.